Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Fantasy Pros Football Podcast. I'm Ryan Wormeli, joined as I am, I would say every Thursday morning. I wasn't here last week. You guys were with Seth. He did a great job filling in. Appreciate him stepping in for me. But as I am joined most Thursday mornings by Jake Ciely from The Athletic and by Pat Fitzmaurice. Guys, how are you doing? Heading into week 7, we are a third of the way through the NFL season. We are, borderline halfway through the regular season for fantasy already, and it gets more and more shocking every week just how quickly it goes by. Fitzy, how are you doing?
Doing well. The question is, how are you doing? You had this foot surgery. How are the crutches?
First of all, please don't violate HIPAA and tell everybody the surgery I had. No, I'm just kidding. I had foot surgery. I had 2 kind of issues in the foot, one fracture, one kind of bone resetting thing. So I am in a boot. I am on crutches. I was just telling you guys before the show that I have never had crutches in my whole life. I've never been in a walking boot either. So it's been an adjustment. I'm very grateful to my mother who flew out to kind of help out for a couple of days post-surgery and do stuff like walk my dog and, just kind of make food and do dishes and just general chores that are really difficult on crutches. She is now gone, so it is now just up to me to, figure out how to get around. I'll go to the bottom of the stairs and just like throw my water bottle up the stairs and then go up after it on crutches and pick it up at the top because you just can't carry stuff very easily. So if anybody has any ideas, the fanny pack they used when they were on crutches or, start wearing a backpack around, I'm open to ideas. I'm not going to be on the crutches very long. I will be on the boot for a while. So getting a little bit better here.
You need one of those, the bags that's in the front, but the clip is also in the front. That's what
I like those like shoulder bags. Yeah, I did. Yeah. A buddy of mine he tore his Achilles 2 summers ago. He lent me a knee scooter that he had. It doesn't really work inside the house, just the way my house is set up. It wouldn't be very helpful. But out of the house, that has been helpful. And there is like a bag on the front of that. So that has been.
I will say, if you're going to be on that for a while, so Nicole had surgery twice. Well, since I've known her, she's actually 5 ankle surgeries.
Oh, wow.
If you guys were Juwan Jennings, you'd be out there playing this week as a decoy. Yeah. But the truth is 2 things. Game changer. Put an extra knee pad on the pad because your knee is going to get really worn out. And then if you go to Amazon, you can find tires to go over the tires because if you go over cracks or anything, it's really easy for that thing to get stuck and everything. So I found these tires that you can put over the tires for like more track. You can off-road while you're on your knee scooter.
I was gonna say the knee scooter is like super like loose and wobbly, honestly, and I can't tell if it's on purpose so it can handle some of the stuff, or like I feel like I'm gonna fall over on it. So I try to use it in like the grocery store, places where it's like a smooth, surface or something. So yeah, maybe I'll look into those tires. I do have the extra padding on the crutches themselves, like just because you're on them so much. So that's what I'm dealing with.
So for everybody out there, the real podcast starts at 3:10.
yeah, we'll have that comment on there for sure. Nobody cares about they don't care about my injuries. They care about the injuries to their fantasy team, of which there are plenty. This is our starts and sits show, waiver ads, touchdown calls, all that good stuff we always do on Thursdays. All of our 2025 consensus rankings and tiers can be found at fantasypros.com/rankings. Let's dive into the popular waiver ads and see if we are interested in starting any of these guys right away or if they were just pickups that we are stashing to see what happens. First name here had a great game, Kimani Vidal. Obviously, there was some, I'll say, confusion about who was going to be the starter for the Chargers backfield. Fitz, was it going to be Vidal? Was it going to be Hassan Haskins? It ends up being Vidal in terms of the production here clearly was, really good. Is this the sort of thing that you expect to continue into week 7 and beyond as long as he, has this role? Or do you think that was maybe more of a one-off? It was up against the Dolphins' run defense, and you'd be maybe a little more hesitant about starting him this week. How are you approaching Vidal?
I think you're starting him if you picked him up. I have him at running back 25, and I think I'm below ECR on that. If a player's a lead back for his team, you're starting him unless he's terrible or unless his offense is terrible. I don't think either of those caveats apply here with Kimani Vidal. Like, no doubt Vidal benefited from the matchup against the Dolphins, who just have this cotton candy run defense. He averaged 6.9 yards per carry against Miami. He gets the Colts this week. They're more of a neutral matchup. Things won't be quite as easy, but Vidal's usage last week was lead back stuff. 67.2% snap share, 21 touches, usage in the passing game, 4 targets, 3 catches. Yeah, you're playing him.
What do you think, Jake? Are you at all worried that this might be a week-to-week thing where it was the Vidal week in week 6 and then week 7 ends up being a Haskins week, or do you think that this is his backfield?
I think it's his backfield, but I would say the worry only comes down to, is Haskins going to get inside the 5, inside the 10 carries, because there weren't a ton of opportunities for that. Vidal was doing plenty, just in the general sense of things. So maybe he loses a touchdown here or there, but it's not enough that knock him out of the RB2 range. I'm a little bit higher than Fitz, but not by much. I still have him in the same mix behind Jordan Mason, but in with like a DeAndre Swift, a Jalen Warren, some split backfield running backs, a Swift who gets all the touches, but has been pretty much inefficient outside of last week, which was just one really big play for that touchdown. So you kind of get the sense of where I would risk Vidal. And I guess against the Colts, there's a little bit more risk, but the good thing here is what we expect the Colts to be, and worrisome on defense, but expect them to be a team that still scores almost at will at this point. It is a tougher matchup that they've seen most weeks, but if they are scoring, they're probably not going to use Haskins much, that being the Chargers, because Vidal is in the passing game. Haskins is not.
The next most popular waiver ad this week, Bam Knight. And he, Vidal, I think, is kind of an easy one, at least just in terms of where he's ranked in ECR. He is ranked as a low-end RB2, so that is, for by and large, most people are going to be starting him. Knight is more ranked in that mid to back end running back 3. I might have said wide receiver. I meant running back. Running back 3 range. So it's a little trickier, and also he didn't have this great smash start already that we just saw out of Vidal. He had 11.9 Knight. I'm talking about 11.9 fantasy points in half PPR scoring back in week 6, just 34 yards on the ground, but he did get the touchdown for the Cardinals. So Jake, I'll start with you on this one. Is Knight somebody that if you picked him up, you're saying, hey, like lead back in the Cardinals backfield, I'm going to roll with him? He's listed as questionable, but assuming he plays.
No, I honestly don't want to start him unless I'm desperate. I have him behind both Texans running backs to give you an idea of how far down I am. And I have him 36, mostly because there was something interesting in that game. For anybody that just might have checked the box score, is that Knight didn't see much until Demercado left the game. And then additionally, by that point of the game was when they were in contention, and then with briefly the lead for a little bit. And that's where Knight was getting a lot of his run, which suggests what we knew about Michael Carter, 2-minute drill, passing game option, is that Carter's going to be the negative game script one, which is what we would expect most weeks, especially against the Packers. So I don't expect a lot of opportunities in general for this offense once they get inside the 10, if they even get there. But I do expect them to probably try to catch up with the Packers offense. So I have Carter just in front of him. That all being said, I have Carter one spot in front of him. I have him 35 and 36, which is what I'm telling you in my rankings is I'm not starting either unless I'm desperate, because it could go either way. We got that news that Knight was going to be the lead. Clearly wasn't. Michael Carter was getting all the run until those injuries happened. The injury happened, but I still don't want to start either unless I'm desperate.
What do you think, Fitz? I mean, Jake is lower than consensus, but not by much. Knight is RB32 in the half PPR consensus rankings. What do you think? Where do you have him?
I'm between Jake and ECR. I have Knight 34, and I think I have Carter 35, but I should probably flip that because I think Jake nailed it. I think Carter is probably the guy to have in a negative chase game script, and that's probably what they're going to get against the Packers. And by the way, the Packers are giving up a league low 66 rushing yards per game to running backs, so this is a pretty tough matchup for a guy who depends on his rushing. So this is it. It is a split backfield, and kind of interesting, by the way, that you've got a University of North Carolina guy, Carter, and an NC State guy, Bam Knight, sharing a backfield. We just need a Duke guy to make it a 3-way backfield, I guess. I don't really want to play either of these guys this week. I think you'd have to be pretty desperate at running back.
Wake Forest fans are like, what? You couldn't get one of our running backs in there?
Or Wake.
I was going to say, if you're going to do 3 running backs, that's technically you should be Georgia Tech. So, to be clear,
those were the 2 most popular running backs. I do want to throw a wide receiver out here as well. Kendrick Bourne, who, because of injuries in that receiving room, lots of injuries in that receiving room, has had 2 wide receiver 1 weeks. He was wide receiver 9 in week 5 against the Rams, wide receiver 11 in week 6 against the Bucs. He had 142 yards receiving in both of those games. He had 10 catches in week 5, just 5 in week 6, but obviously has been very productive with this opportunity of again, just so many injuries going on in San Francisco. So, Fitz, I'll start with you on this one. Kendrick Bourne, he's wide receiver 29 in ECR. So, again, kind of in that range of you could definitely have multiple options better, but, he's not buried in the rankings to the point where we're not buying into this so much. It's kind of a hard thing to answer because they're, there are question marks, surrounding what this receiving room will look like on Sunday. But how are you approaching Bourne right now? Is he somebody you're interested in starting?
Not really. Well, definitely not if Ricky Pearsall comes back. And I don't know. I mean, if Pearsall plays, the target outlook gets more complicated for Bourne. Like, it's already getting more complicated because it seems like there's an excellent chance George Kittle comes back this week. Juwan Jennings is banged up, as he'll be the first to tell you, but it seems like he's going to play, and we know Christian McCaffrey is probably getting double-digit targets. I guess the good news for Bourne and what could maybe buoy his fantasy outlook a little bit is that Brock Purdy is not ready to come back yet. So Bourne gets to play with Mac Jones. These two just seem to have chemistry together. They played on the Patriots a few years ago. Bourne has had 142 yards each of the last 2 weeks. He's been the primary target for Mac Jones. But yeah, things are not quite as sunny with some of these pass catchers coming back and cutting into Bourne's target share.
Pearsall still listed as just a 15% chance to play in the Fantasy Pros Are They Playing tool. That's based on, the history of him missing practice and the fact that he did not practice on Wednesday. This is not including any kind of Thursday or Friday practice report yet as when we're recording. So keep an eye on that. That is subject to change. I would recommend everybody check out the tool, the Are They Playing tool on Fantasy Pros. Again, right now, Pearsall 15% chance to play. That'll maybe be more clear as we get later in the week. Jake, what are you doing with Kendrick Bourne?
We need the Charlie Day flowchart behind us for this one because you have Purdy versus Mac Jones, which Fitz just brought up. So if it's Mac Jones, feel better than if it's with Purdy because, as Fitz said, there's some kind of chemistry between Mac Jones and Kendrick Bourne. So if it's Purdy, is that chemistry still there? Then you go down, is Pearsall playing? Completely agree with Fitz. If Pearsall's playing, you knock down Bourne. Probably similar ranking between the two of them. And then if he's out, I would probably keep, right now I have Bourne at 26. He's sandwiched between the Chargers wide receivers, which of course we don't even know Quentin Johnston's playing. But he's kind of right there right now at 26 with names like he's behind Tedero McMillan, but in front of Jameson Williams, even though I like the matchup. And then, of course, the George Kittle factor as he brought in, he probably dings him the least, that being Kittle dinging Bourne the least. But if we had all three, if it was Purdy, Pearsall, and George Kittle, I think you have to almost treat Bourne as a wide receiver 3 with the still potential to be top 15, but a lot of risk there because we had now factor in the Purdy connection, Kittle and Pearsall taking targets away. If we completely go back to last week and it's nobody, none of them are out there, then Bourne is honestly a top 20 wide receiver. And if you throw Kittle into the mix and he's the only one that plays, that's actually where I have Bourne right now. I have Bourne at 26, as in Mac Jones with George Kittle.
Okay. I think that's a good point.
Did I flow chart that enough for
yes,
everybody?
I think you did. I was going to say, I think that is a good call that there's a lot of moving parts on this one. So it's almost like you don't want to say 100% yes or no right now. It's not a binary decision. It's very much a if X, then Y, if Y, then
and then
Z.
if they trade for Chris Olave.
Yeah. All right, so pay attention to all of those moving parts before you decide what to do with Kendrick Bourne. If you had to, let's say you were picking between him and somebody in the Thursday night game. This usually comes out late enough that we don't talk about Thursday players. But if you had to pick between him and a player in the Thursday night game, so you don't know the answer to these questions yet, it sounds like based on your ranking, you would go with starting him and kind of lean in that direction, or is that not right?
The only one I would wait. I would not start T. Higgins. I would wait.
Okay. Let's go to our plant your flag players.
Fitz looked like he disagreed.
Oh, do you, Fitz?
So I've got T. Higgins ranked ahead of Kendrick Bourne. But that is also with the assumption that Ricky Pearsall does play.
Okay.
So if Pearsall does not play, I might scooch Bourne ahead of T. Higgins.
But we won't know. Well, possibly we won't know.
Right.
So we should have a good idea of the practice. Wednesday, as you guys, I'm not saying this to you guys because you guys know this, but Wednesdays are pretty much meaningless at this point. So if you get Pearsall, I would say even if it's not limited, but there's no word for it, but if it's above limited, but not like a full, he's out there and he's doing most everything, I would be more with Fitz on that because now on a Thursday, if Pearsall's doing that much, that would probably point to him playing.
And I'm kind of cautiously optimistic that Joe Flacco, I don't want to say it's going to be the same as it would be with Joe Burrow, but that he can sort of pump new life into T. Higgins.
I mean, he understood the assignment. Don't throw to anybody else except for Jason Higgins.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's move on to the Plant Your Flag segment. These are the guys that you guys feel really strong conviction in, that you just really, it can be any position. Ironically, you guys both picked the same position. You both picked a quarterback for this week. You guys are planting your flag just that you really believe in them. They are going to have a good week that you want to be above consensus on here. Jake, let's start with you. Who's your plant your flag quarterback this week?
Yeah, this came up because I got a lot of questions about the fact that he was one of my top, I think he was top 2 streaming quarterbacks this week, because his rostership's fallen below 60% because everybody got frustrated at the beginning of the season. And then, of course, the bye. But CJ Stroud, and a lot of the questions I got were like, oh my gosh, the Seahawks defense is really good. Look out for the Seahawks defense. And like, no, it's not really that good. Like, yes, it was, but they've also lost almost three players. One has been in and out in the secondary. And if you look at what they've just done over the last 3 games, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Trevor Lawrence, all 2 touchdowns. Kyler Murray was actually the low scorer in those 3 games at 16. And then Trevor Lawrence was just at 20, depending on your league. It was like 19, 20. Baker Mayfield had a really nice day, throwing for almost 400 yards. And even if you go back to when their defense was healthy, in week 1, Brock Purdy threw for 2 touchdowns. It has 17 points against them. So I'm looking at CJ Stroud, and yeah, the offensive line is always a concern, but I go back to what I was saying about the Seahawks. They're not healthy right now. If they were healthy, of course, I would be more concerned. But they've been giving it up, especially in the passing game, as I just mentioned, for the last 3 games. There's just a lot of injuries right there. And if you need quarterback help, I'm starting CJ Stroud over Justin Fields. Justin Fields, like, the Panthers defense is strong these past 2 weeks against the run, but it's also, he has no Garrett Wilson. He got him killed. And that's why I wanted to bring up CJ Stroud, because a lot of people right now need a quarterback. Like, I love Jackson Dart for the potential of his rushing upside, but I'm starting Stroud over Dart in Denver. I'm doing that this week.
What do you think, Fitz? Stroud is QB 16 in ECR.
I think that's about where I have him. So, like, I think Jake might be a little more excited about him than I am. Like, I can't get excited about a quarterback with a bad offensive line going against the Seahawks in Seattle. Like, the Seahawks, they're 6th in pressure rate, tied for 2nd in sacks. And yes, they are really banged up in the secondary. They've been playing without Devon Witherspoon and Reek Woolen, their 2 best cornerbacks. And Julian Love, their excellent safety. It's possible they could get one or more of those guys back. I think they'll probably get Reek Woolen back. He had a concussion, and guys typically only miss 1 game with a concussion. Not always, but typically. Not as sure about Witherspoon, who's got a knee issue, and Julian Love, who's got the hamstring issue. I guess I'm okay with playing Stroud if all of the DBs are still out for Seattle. But if 1 or 2 of them come back, I'm probably going to be fading Stroud in my rankings a little bit.
I would be with you if 2 came back. 1, I'm still probably strongly on Stroud, but if 2, I'm with you. That's a good point to bring up.
That's fair.
By the way, for anybody who hasn't looked at the actual schedule yet, this is, of course, part of the Monday night doubleheader that is going to be taking place at 10 o'clock Eastern. As somebody who's not on the East Coast, I don't mind it as much from the timing perspective. I don't like that there are double headers on Mondays, especially more like I get why they do one early in the year. I don't like that there's multiple now. We're into mid-August or August. We're into mid-October and we're still doing this, so I don't enjoy that at all. But the 10 o'clock one, I actually at least do prefer that they're separate and I don't have to have them kind of going on at the same time like we did this last week.
Just put it at 8:30. Like I'm not as opposed to the double headers as everybody seems to be, because I don't mind 2 games at the same time, and especially like last week where most of the overlap was about 2 quarters, because the other 2 the bookends didn't really overlap a lot, and then you had the halftime offsetting it. So I don't mind it. I mind the 10 o'clock as an East Coast person.
Oh, brutal.
I'm sure. Yeah, Fitz. It's not that I mind the 2 on at the same time. It's just that it just feels wrong. I'm just like, Monday Night Football should just be 1 game. It's like, it's not even like a specific, like, oh, I can't stand watching 2 games at the same time. It's that I like having Monday night stand alone.
Yep. Totally agree with you. Man, the 10 o'clock East Coast time, like, I don't see how they can do that to people on the East Coast, like Jake.
Twice in a year. I mean, they already did one earlier and they're doing it again.
Yeah, watching it. I mean,
the Raiders game, I did it. I said, look, here's my waiver column. It's still posting at midnight like it always does. And if anything happens, I'll be updating it early in the morning. But see, as the sidebar is, this is why I also like it too, is because there's only 6 1 o'clock games and I can focus more. It saves me work on Monday from having to go back and rewatch games on NFL Plus, is being able to watch more and be more attentive. Like it pulls off from the 1 o'clock games. And that's what I like about it.
That's fair. Fitz, who is your quarterback that you're picking for planting your flag?
It's going to be Jared Goff. And look, it's a home game in the Ford Field of the Coors Field of the NFL, we know that scoring is always way up when the Lions have home games against a pass funnel Buccaneers defense in a game with a Vegas total of 52.5. Goff gets to throw to Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs. It's just a great setup. I've got him ranked QB 8 this week, one spot behind Baker Mayfield, and I'll probably move Goff ahead of Mayfield if Mike Evans isn't able to come back from his hammy injury this week. And I think Jake is on board with me because I think Jake has Goff ranked even higher than I do.
Yeah. Why do you hate Goff? I have him at 6.
He, just for the record, in terms of weekly finishes this season, he has that QB1 overall finish in week 2. He has not been a QB1 at any other point. His next highest finish is QB13 so far this season. So this is higher than he has been almost every week of the year, Jake.
Yeah, and this is what happens with Goff. And honestly, it's the same argument for CJ Stroud when you have to do it all with your arm to really reach that number 1 or even top 5 finish. I mean, there's a lot of quarterbacks that sneak into like the 4th, 5th spot just with Jackson Dart has done it. Like that's the issue there. So, but I think as Fitz said, this is why you're attacking the Buccaneers defense. And I think honestly, to his point, that if there's no Mike Evans, you honestly start to worry about the over/under for if it was anybody but the Lions, because the Lions are just like, oh, we're still up 40-10. Cool, we're going to keep passing. Like, who the hell cares? Like, that's just what they do.
Yeah.
Would you guys start Goff over somebody like Jalen Hurts, who's playing at Minnesota this week?
I got that question in the Discord over at The Athletic this morning. No, I have Hurts one spot in front of Goff. And like, I'm not that scared of Minnesota as everybody else seems to be. Like, I'm scared. Fitz has brought it up twice this year. I am scared if it's an inexperienced offense, if it's an experienced quarterback, a young quarterback. Yes, then I am definitively terrified of the Vikings defense. But Hurts, experienced teams like that, like, no, I'm not gonna steer away from Hurts.
Yeah, Fitz, what do you think about that? Same thing.
I have Hurts ranked higher too.
Okay, yeah, I have Hurts in a guillotine league this week, so I'm thinking about picking up a quarterback, maybe like a Goff or Caleb Williams, because you get to this point in the season and teams are just holding on to one QB, so you actually do have some pretty decent options available you could pick up and stream instead. So, we'll see what I end up doing there. But, yeah, I mean, the Vikings are very good. This isn't a Hurts conversation. We'll move on from that.
No, it's not. I have at 5.
Too much of a detour. Okay.
Yeah. I got the only 4. Daniels, Mahomes, Prescott, and May are the only ones I would start over Hurts.
It's not an easy matchup, but it's not a skull and crossbones matchup either.
Today's show is brought to you by our new presenting sponsor, Hard Rock Bet. The Hard Rock Bet Sportsbook app is clean, easy to use, and it's also packed with trends, insights, and odds you can check out any day of the week. Week 7 kicks off with the Steelers versus the Bengals. Check out these streaks from Hard Rock Bet Stats Hub right there in the app. Fantasy Pros has Jamar Chase as our consensus 3rd-ranked wide receiver this week. He has scored a touchdown in 4 straight October games. George Pickens is just a few spots down at number 7 on the list. He's on a 4-game touchdown streak of his own. You can find odds for streaks just like this right now in the Hard Rock Bet app. Still haven't placed your first bet on Hard Rock Bet? It's not too late. Place your first $5 bet, and if it wins, you'll score $150 in bonus bets on top of your payout. Plus, tonight on Hard Rock Bet, you can get a Thursday night parlay boost for the game. Boost your parlay so it pays extra winnings. There's new promos every day if you're listening to this later. Just open the app and check out what you've got on any day of the week. Download the Hard Rock Bet app and make your first deposit. All right, guys, let's get into our player debates here. Running back debate number 1, Cam Skattebo versus Rachaad White. In terms of the vibes on these guys in general, coming into like the season and where we are, it might feel like there's a clear answer, but they are back-to-back in ECR right now in the half PPR scoring. So, Fitz, I'll start with you. Who do you like better, Cam Skattebo or Rachaad White in Week 7?
Who is the better running back, Cam Skattebo or Rachaad White? I think it's Skattebo. I don't think it's particularly close. Maybe I would consider starting Rachaad White over Skattebo if White had a cushy matchup. That's really not the case here. White goes up against the Lions. Skattebo goes up against the Broncos. They're both kind of tough matchups. White's matchup is arguably tougher. The Lions have allowed fewer rushing yards per game to running backs than the Broncos have. The Lions' run defense ranks 5th in DVOA. The Broncos rank 8th. And like White, Skattebo catches passes too. He's averaged 4 catches a game over the last 4 weeks and has at least 2 catches in every game this season. White has 599 career carries. He's averaged 3.8 yards per carry for his career. Like, start Cam Skattebo, who's actually good at football.
Jake.
Yep. As seems to be like like what was last week. It took a while for us to agree, and maybe like right out of the gate, what we're doing is it's going to take a while to agree. Possibly. I'm on the other side. I have White. Uh-oh. It's close, mostly because I think both are volume plays. Like I think that Skattebo has been a volume play. It's not like he's averaging 5 yards a carry, and I know the touchdowns just came, but maybe this is my Viking similarities, but I am deathly afraid of Jackson Dart in this offense in Denver. Like that, I am worried that they just completely get stomped and defensively, not like the Broncos are going to put up 35 points. And maybe I'm underestimating what Dart and Skattebo do just from like a personality standpoint, whatever it might be. And Rachaad White is pure volume. He's still been pure volume. He has 18 and 20 touches the past 2 weeks, but he gets into the end zone. And Fitz is right, but the one thing that the Lions have done, if you look at it like Judkins, volume play, got into the end zone. Swift, volume play, got into the end zone. Josh Jacobs, volume play, got into the end zone. And maybe I'm banking too much on the Bucs being able to get into the scoring range for White to get into the end zone. But if I'm picking between the two, that's just where I'm going to give the edge. I'm going to give the Buccaneers the slight edge over the Giants offense of being able to get their running back into the end zone. But that's the thing. I'm not going to disagree that vehemently because I could see them both having 20 touches for 80 yards, and then the difference is going to be who scored.
Yeah, that's fair. Jake makes a great point. Like Baker Mayfield closes the gap between these guys because he is more likely to keep the chains moving against the Lions defense that's missing a few defensive backs. So good point on that. That's what makes it kind of close.
And you, Fitz, just called it, Coors Field. Like you were expecting a lot of points in that game, whereas Giants at Denver. I know the Giants just scored 34 points in a game last week, but that doesn't sound like a high-scoring game when you hear it.
No.
What if I asked you, we only do like a head-to-head in this segment usually, but what if I threw in a third name here? Because it's Rachaad White in ECR is RB15, Skattebo is RB16. RB17 is in the game with Skattebo, it's J.K. Dobbins. Do you guys agree with Dobbins being behind both of those guys, or would you put him ahead of either or both of them, Jake?
I have him behind both, but barely. Like I've been arguing, go get J.K. Dobbins in trades because nobody wants him. Like everybody's just like, oh, it's not going to keep happening. He's not, but he's just that consistent RB 16 to 22. Like he's not going to be top 10. And I think that's why the ceiling just isn't the same for him versus the other two. And of course, now watch him score 2 touchdowns against the Giants. But it just comes down to Dobbins being more of that. He's the floor. Like if you told me between the three who I wanted to like, hey, I need to bet that I get at least 8 points this week, it would be Dobbins. But like if I wanted to go for who has the higher ceiling, that's why I would go with the other two.
Fitz?
So I've got Dobbins behind the other guys. Dobbins far and away the easiest matchup, but brings pretty much zero to the table as a pass catcher. Like he can't even catch passes in a Sean Payton offense where they always throw to the running backs. They're not throwing to J.K. Dobbins. The other guys are pretty prolific pass catchers.
All right, let's go to our next running back debate here. I did want to include Vidal because he was highly ranked, even though he was in the popular waiver wire segment as well already. So Vidal is one of the names here versus DeAndre Swift, who Fitz is coming off a great game where he looked very good. He obviously had the 55-yard catch and run for the touchdown, which, really added to the scoring. But he also had, just 14 carries over 100 yards on the ground as well. It just looked a lot better coming out of the bye, I felt, watching that game. So who do you like better this week, Swift or Vidal?
Maybe it seems like I'm chasing the previous week's points, the ultimate fantasy sin, but I do have Swift ranked higher. I don't feel that strongly about it. Swift had not been all that effective as a runner up until he had the 108 yards against the Commanders. He's averaged 3.1 yards per carry or worse in 3 of his first 4 games, and then had the big day. Also that huge 55-yard touchdown catch late, and that was against a good run defense. So maybe Ben Johnson worked out the bugs in the Chicago running game while the Bears were on bye, because the running game was really good, just humming on Monday night. The run blocking looked great. So cautious optimism that maybe Swift gets a little more consistent from here on out.
What do you think about this one, Jake?
I have them almost back to back. I go Vidal slightly, and it's not anything against like disagreeing with Fitz on this one. It's just there's a couple factors here. I hope, like to his point, I hope Ben Johnson fixed it. And the thing that you saw that they did in that game is, oh, by the way, what do we want to do? What the freaking Patriots should be doing with Henderson? Get Swift into space.
Outside,
stop running in between the tackles. Why are we running Henderson? I know it's not a Henderson thing, but I'm just bringing it up for comparison's sake. But part of that too is Ben Johnson did have 2 weeks to prepare for that game, 2 weeks to say, this is our game plan going forward. And as you said, Fitz, maybe, hopefully, Ben Johnson has said, you know what, this is the way my offense can work with DeAndre Swift. He clearly wants DeAndre Swift to be bell cow-y. He's still barely, I mean, there was a slight uptick from a non-guy, but it wasn't enough to be like, oh, he's really coming for the job at all, or even for a 50-50 split with like David Montgomery or whatever. But I want to see it a second time. And I know the Saints matchup is a cushy one, but again, getting him in space and using him in that fashion, yes, please do that with Swift going forward. If you want to go Swift, I'm not going to argue. This is another one where I'm not going to be like, oh my God, you got to start Vidal. But I have to see it a second time.
How close did you say they were? Did you say they were back to back for you, or just very close?
I go Vidal, Warren, Swift in order. Okay. Like back to back to back. Like, and they're all inside the top 22.
So Vidal is 22 in consensus. Swift is up at 19. So they're
I basically have them reversed of consensus. I have Vidal at 20, Warren at 21, and Swift at 22.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. We'll see how that one pans out. I just really liked what I saw from Swift, and I totally get wanting to see it again. I think that's completely fair. Jake, I want to believe. I want to come in here.
I'm with you. X-Files. Yeah. There you go. Want to believe.
Yeah, I've never seen X-Files, but
I knew you were going to say that. That's why I said it. Like, it came to my mind, and I knew the response out of your mouth was going to be, "I've never seen it."
There was some, I can't remember what it was. I didn't listen to the entire episode last week because I was kind of out of it, recovering from surgery. But I did listen a little to last week's episode, and there was some reference that you guys were talking about, and I was like, I was screaming from my bed. I was like, I actually know this reference. Oh, was it you? Was it this a show that you guys were talking about, The Dark Knight, last week? And I was like,
yes.
Because I knew that they filmed the early one in Chicago, and then Dark Knight Rises was
the first two in Chicago.
Yes, and I was like screaming that from my bed, and you guys were talking about. I was like, this is a reference I could actually talk about, and I was unable to, so that was disappointing to me.
That's what we do. We only bring up references we're not here.
You wait till I'm not here to talk about the movies I've seen. All right, let's get to the wide receiver debates here. We had to ask about Rashee Rice just with him coming back. I want to know what you guys think about him right off the bat. Clearly, this is somebody that, if you have been sitting on him for 6 weeks, you have been waiting for this moment to get Rashee Rice back into your lineup. I mean, he was going as high at certain points in the summer as a second-round pick in drafts. So this is somebody that you expected to be a potential league winner here. This is somebody who you expected to be like a real key cog in the machine of your fantasy lineup. So I want to see what you guys think about him in week 7, first week back. Is there going to be rust? Is there not? What does the offense look like? All that stuff. So Rashee Rice versus Brian Thomas Jr., who is coming off of his best game of the season. Jake, Fitz, I'll start with you on this one, actually. Do you like Rice or Brian Thomas Jr. better?
Yeah, I'll take Rashee Rice. Like, things have been getting better for BTJ. 4 catches for 80 yards against the Chiefs 2 weeks ago, 8 catches for 90 yards in his first touchdown of the season last week against Seattle. His 2 best games of the season, really his only 2 good games of the season. But we talked earlier about how banged up the Seattle secondary has been, so that probably factored into Brian Thomas's big game last week. I just think Rice is going to be full go for the Chiefs right away, and all the stuff they do with him, those wide receiver screens and little quick hitters, like, it's some of the best stuff in Andy Reid's playbook. I don't think it's going to be a slow build for Rashee Rice. They're going to use him heavily right away.
I'm curious what you think, Jake, and I'm curious too, like, I'm almost more curious just where you have Rice ranked, because I think Brian Thomas Jr. is a little maybe not easy to rank just given what the season has looked like, but Rice is the one where I feel like there could be a pretty wide variance here in terms of where you would come down on him, again, just for his first week back. So where do you have these guys ranked, and who do you like better this week?
So I apparently hate Rashee Rice having him at 14. Now that's also with Debo and no Terry. So if Terry is back, Debo slides behind him. If Debo doesn't even play, obviously and Terry would not jump Rashee Rice if he plays and there is no Debo Samuel. So Rashee Rice probably, for all intents and purposes, ends up at 13. I have Brian Thomas at 11. That's how narrow the gap is. But the reason I'm going with Brian Thomas, I wrote it up in the waiver column this week, and I do a power up section of like what to believe and everything. And watching Brian Thomas, and this is why I went and dug into the metrics, like, I'm watching him the past 2 weeks, and I'm like, he looks different. And we can speculate, and I even said that, we could speculate it was the wrist, and the wrist was bothering more than he let on, and that was causing some of his hesitation for contested balls and running over the middle when he made the business decision and all that type of stuff. But it's also the catches, just he's making the tougher ones that were contested. And I went back and looked over the past 3 games. after having a 42% on target percentage from Trevor Lawrence in the first 3 games. The last 3 games, 100%, not 90, not what, 100% of the targets to Lawrence to Brian Thomas have been on target. They're connecting similar to somewhat we saw Ridley before he got hurt was starting to connect with Cam Ward. It's not even to this level. Trevor Lawrence and Brian Thomas are on the Mac Jones and Brian Thomas train right now, back with Mike Jones last year. It's working, and Brian Thomas looks good again, and Brian Thomas looks like himself. And that's why I give him the slight edge. I do think Fitz mentioned he listened to the podcast that I had JJ Zacharyson on and mentioned that he listened to that. And we talked about this. And JJ brought up the really good point. He said, Rashee Rice can walk into 25% target share and Worthy can still be a thing, because if you look at Worthy and then the other wide receivers basically equate to 25%. And I agree with him. And I agree with Rice potentially being a wide receiver 1 going forward. But that conversation also included expecting Travis Kelce to fall off as he was last year and earlier this year. I don't necessarily know that happens, boom, right out of the gate. Travis Kelce's looked good finally, again, in the first year, the past couple of weeks. Maybe they just say, why do we need to force it 10 times to Rashee Rice? So we're talking splitting hairs here. The biggest answer that I will say in this entire incorporation of this conversation is I have him at 13/14. So that means you bench Pittman, you bench Olave, you bench guys that if you've been waiting and those have been your wide receiver 3s, they hit the bench for Rashee Rice.
I assume you guys both have Rice ahead of Thomas in rest of season rankings, right?
Narrowly, yes.
I do, yeah.
Okay. Let's go to another wide receiver debate here. You just mentioned Olave, Jake. How about Chris Olave or Stephon Diggs, who had a very good week 5, had a less good week 6, although he had a 50-yard catch that was called back on kind of an iffy penalty. So it would have looked a lot different if that pass had stayed completed. So Diggs or Olave, Jake, who do you like better this week?
Spider-Man meme pointing at each other. The essential same wide receivers of volume PPR guys, both facing defenses that we want to exploit. Like they play them both, but I have Olave at 20 and Stephon Diggs at 22. Again, a very slim margin. Pittman is sandwiched in between them. I'm just going to take Olave on the fact that the one thing that we can say about both teams is Olave's always going to be the main target. He's going to always be. I think Diggs will be more often than not. And I actually think Diggs, I brought this up in the podcast too, I think he's a good buy low, because the 2 weeks prior to last, he was 90% out there and like the clear number 1. He was getting the targets. But Drake May is Josh Allen, is Lamar Jackson. He will spread it around. He won't target the same guy every single week. He will take what's given to him. And as we just saw with Boutte, which is why I'm kind of cool on Boutte, phrasing, is the fact that like this was the first good game since week 1, because May's just going to take what's there. This is the week where Diggs should be able to exploit that. But the slim difference going to be, I know I don't have to worry about Olave being the main target. There's always the chance that Diggs might be the 2nd or 3rd.
Jake, you're almost exactly lined up with consensus. You have Olave 2 spots higher, and you have him at 20 and 22. The consensus rankings have them 2 spots apart, with Olave at 19 and Diggs at 21. So you're very, very close to being aligned with consensus on both of them. Fitz, how do you see it? Do you like Diggs or Olave better?
So Olave has 64 targets and 39 catches this year. Diggs has 37 targets and 32 catches. So Olave has more catches than Diggs has targets. But Olave is averaging 5.3 yards per target. Diggs is averaging 10.5 yards per target. That's where the superior quarterback play comes in. I mean, one guy's playing with Drake May, the other's tied to Spencer Rattler. Right, so it's close. I have Diggs wide receiver 20, Olave wide receiver 21 in a half-point PPR, but in full-point PPR, just because of the volume, I've got Olave ranked a couple spots higher than Diggs.
Okay. Let's go to some more start-sit decisions here, guys. We'll do another running back one here. How about Isaiah Pacheco or either Patriots running back? I'll let you guys pick and choose between them. If you want to separate them, if you have them kind of, hand-holding, then that's fine as well. But Pacheco versus either Patriots running back Fitz.
Ooh, it's dealer's choice. I'll take the dealer's choice for him. Give me Ramondre Stevenson over Isaiah Pacheco. Like I know there seemed to be a usage shift in the Chiefs' backfield last week. Pacheco played more than twice as many snaps as Kareem Hunt. But is that the way it's going to be henceforth? I don't know. Like, it wouldn't be shocking if it went back to being a near even split between Pacheco and Hunt this week with some Brashard Smith mixed in. And the Chiefs have been really pass heavy. Their passing rate over expected last week against the Lions was plus 13.5%. Just give me Ramondre in the easy matchup. Like the Titans have allowed a league-high 9 touchdown runs to running backs. They're giving up 4.7 yards per carry to running backs. Their run defense ranks 27th in DVOA. I know Ramondre might be one fumble away from getting yanked. I'll take my chances.
What do you think, Jake? And again, you can also pick your Patriots running back of choice here.
Well, how about I'll do the Will Ferrell yeah, fist bump. We finally agree. It took a while, but we got here quicker this week. I have Stevenson at 26, Pacheco at 27, Henderson at 30. I slightly Stevenson. Everything Fitz said, I agree with, and this comes back to kind of the similar conversation we had from earlier in the show. I want to believe X-Files again 2 times for you. I want to believe that Pacheco's finally going to be the guy, but this is one game, and I know it's against the Raiders, but again, do they even need their running backs? With the way that Patrick Mahomes is playing, it's almost kind of like he's proven hey, you made the joke about the Warriors are just coasting through the season from past years. It's like, this is clearly, we did this show at the beginning of the year, and we speculated, and I brought up the point. I was like, maybe taking it on the chin in the Super Bowl was like their wake-up call. Patrick Mahomes has come out this season and be like, we're not just going to coast through this season. He is going for the MVP at this point. So it could just be all passing volume. And that's where Pacheco obviously takes a big hit. So that's why I give Stevenson the slightest of edges.
I don't know what the odds are right now. I would bet on Mahomes winning the MVP. Like, it's
He's
been
the
a few
favorite.
years. Okay, he should be the favorite.
Yeah.
And I unless it's like a pretty poor odds, like even with him as a favorite, I would bet on him right now.
I think
Baker's climbed up a bit. I know he's now number 3. I forget who's 2, Fitz, if you know, but I think at this point, your point being, I would agree with you. Unless Mahomes got hurt, I don't see anybody taking it from him at this point.
Yeah. Has someone jumped Baker? Last I checked, I thought Mahomes was 2-1 and Baker was 3-1, and then it was a little bit of a drop off.
I'm pulling it up on Hard Rock
Baker
Bet
might have
here.
pulled up to number 2 then.
Baker's been awesome. I don't want to diminish Baker when I say that I think Mahomes is going to be the MVP.
Allen's still number 2. It's
Okay.
Mahomes, Allen, Baker, and then Goff is a distant 4th, which is just crazy.
I mean, injuries can always change things, right? Obviously, they have changed things already. That's why guys like Lamar and Burrow aren't in the conversation. But it's hard for even Allen to win it back to back. You have to be so good, and he's already just been just enough worse that it almost rules him out. That I think voters are going to say hey, it's been long enough since Mahomes got one. He's the best quarterback in football. And he's playing awesome. He's genuinely playing at a deserving level. It's him. And then if you want to take a long shot, it's Baker just because Baker's been sick. But I think it's Mahomes.
At 40-1, I just checked that. Would you ever take the long shot on that the Ravens somehow run the table and then everybody's like Lamar?
Ooh.
There's that
40-1 is not terrible for that.
That's what I'm saying. That's super long odds. But
especially since a lot of people think Lamar kind of got jobbed, including Worm last year.
I don't just think it. I have 2 eyes and a brain. I can recognize that he was
it's
jobbed
fine
last
because
year.
Allen should have had it the year before. Lamar should have had it last year. So it just offsets. They can go trade the dates on their little. They can just change it.
I don't actually totally disagree with that, but I hate that Lamar's historic season is now kind of lost to history in terms of didn't actually win anything from it. I can't. My internet's slow, so I can't pull up the odds as well. I'm glad you guys were able to check it out. But 40-1 is not bad for that possibility because he only ended up missing 2 games. So his stats, assuming he comes back, could be fine. But
if they ran the table, they could leap the Chiefs. They're only 2 losses behind.
They do have a soft schedule the rest of the way.
Yeah. Stop trying to get my hopes. Okay, this is like the Avengers meme of Hawkeye. Don't do that. Don't give me hope. So we're not gonna get optimistic about that. Let's go to a wide receiver start-sit decision here. How about Matthew Golden, Jake, coming off of what we saw out of him coming off of their bye in week 5 against Ayomanor, who Calvin Ridley has his own. I think it's a hamstring issue. At times this year has been a favorite target of Cam Ward. The offense isn't very good, but Golden or Ayomanor, who do you like better?
Yeah, this one comes down to, I don't want to say it was straddling the fence, 100% Christian Watson. And it's not that I think Christian Watson deserves to be the threat to be the number 1, as we've seen the history of just the inconsistency in his own right. But we're going down the Packers road again of they don't have a 1. They have 18 number 2s. But if Christian Watson's back and he's out there, it just goes back to we should just put like an X-Files GIF or Avi on the thing for this. The thumbnail is I want to believe. I'm a golden person. Like I said pre-season, I'll bring up and say the fact that I missed this one. I felt Golden was their answer to being a number one. Not that he's an NFL number one, but he was the one that could step in and be like, let's stop with these games and Romeo Doubs and Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks and all the rest. Golden can be the constant, and then somebody's alongside of him, probably Reed if healthy. But at this point, I mean, it basically took Wicks getting hurt for Golden to pull away. Like Wicks, going back to the previous game, had played more routes and was more opportunities than Golden. So I want to believe in Golden. It's just I see what the Packers do, and I see what LaFleur does, and he does it all the time. So if Watson's out there, I would actually go Ayomanor. But if Watson's not back, then 100% I would go Golden.
Fitz?
I have Golden ranked higher, and I will have to reevaluate if Watson comes back. Right now, I don't have Watson ranked. The Packers are pretty notoriously conservative about bringing back injured players. So Worm, you and I do the Dynasty podcast together with our good friend Scott Bogman. I'm an enthusiastic Alec Ayomanor supporter, and you know how skeptical I've been about Matthew Golden. And Ayomanor has been used more heavily this season. He's averaging 5.7 targets a game, Golden 3.8 targets a game. And maybe Ayomanor gets a target bump with Calvin Ridley out. But ultimately, Worm, I want the guy in the functional passing attack. And that ain't Ayomanor. Like, there is something to be said for quality of targets. Golden is averaging 11.2 yards per target, and Ayomanor is averaging 5.8 yards per target.
Let's go to some flexes here. Jalen Waddle versus Jordan Mason, and I don't know if you guys saw this. Andy Slater tweeted this morning that this Dolphins-Browns game could have 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts in Cleveland. So, and considering who the quarterbacks are in that game, not exactly the strongest arms of any signal callers in the NFL. So just an interesting thing to note there. It's weather-wise for that one. But Jalen Waddle in that wind, Jake, or Jordan Mason?
I already had Jordan Mason in front of him, and I have a Fantasy 101 column over The Athletic, and I bring up weather and the wind being a factor because you have wind precipitation, all those type of things, and temperature all come into play. And one of them is that 15 plus doesn't really usually do. That's kind of a tie break. 25 plus, you start to think about like, hey, maybe I bench blank for blank. Like, you're not going to go out there and bench Jalen Hurts to go start Justin Fields, like something like that. That's not good. But when you talk 35 plus, then it's like, oh my God, I might want to actually consider even benching my studs. Now, again, studs, I'm talking like you're not benching Patrick Mahomes in 35 plus. You would think about it though. And the point is that thinking about it, as you just said, brings up everything you need to know because we're talking about Tua. Jalen Waddle is the one who would fall off, obviously, if Tua is going to be that bad. So I already had Mason in front of him. If the wind is really that, it's not just the fact that I would definitively, wide gap Mason over Waddle, is that Waddle now potentially falls into the wide receiver 3 range because it's going to have to be short to get it to him, and it's going to have to be after the catch, which can be done. But 35 plus is going, we've seen it time and time again. It destroys passing games.
Yeah, what do you think, Fitz?
Yeah, and I'm a fade the weather guy generally, and I always love it when like people ask questions on Twitter, Discord, or whatever, like, you'd play that quarterback over the other quarterback when the wind is going to be 15 miles an hour. I'm like, 15-mile-an-hour winds will not even tussle your hair, man. Like, I can go out in the backyard with my son and throw the Nerf ball around. Like, oh no, 15 miles an hour, it might blow over the fence. No, 15 miles an hour is nothing.
I'll add to it. 80% chance of rain. You're getting precipitation too. This is
and Cleveland
from this game.
Cleveland is one stadium too where I do worry about the wind because there is like a wind tunnel effect in that stadium. So I had Waddle in neutral conditions. I would play Waddle because he has been like we've seen a serious uptick in his production without Tyreek Hill. In wind like that, no, I'm playing Mason.
Weather can change, of course, so don't just assume that it's going to be it's going to stay that same forecast. Everybody should keep an eye on that. But as of right now, I saw that tweet a few hours ago that it's looking really extreme. So keep an eye out for that. Let's go to another flex here. Tony Pollard or Jacoby Meyers. I know Meyers has his own injury stuff going on. When I put this together, he was still kind of in the rankings and everything. I haven't checked for an update there. Fitz, what do you think, Meyers if he plays, or Pollard?
Pollard wasn't exactly ringing the bell in fantasy when he had the backfield all to himself, and now Tyjae Spears is getting more run. Like, Spears played more snaps than Pollard last week and looked better. Pollard is going against the Patriots, who are pretty tough against the run. So if he plays, give me Meyers. Like, the recent production has been super discouraging. Under 40 receiving yards in 3 straight games. You would have thought that Meyers would smash with Brock Bowers out of action. Yeah. It hasn't happened. I still think Meyers is a better bet than Pollard with the Raiders, probably in chase mode against the Chiefs.
By the way, did not practice Wednesday. Yeah, just to note that. Yeah, go ahead, Jake.
I put that in quotes too, because I wonder how much that has to do with the trade rumors. But like the fact is Fitz is right, but it's also 4 receptions in each of the last 3 games. He actually only had 1 game with 3 receptions. Everything else has been 4+, and he's still going to get those. And so, non-PPR if you want to make an argument, but everybody knows by now I'm anti-Pollard, just for the fact that, like, the argument I brought up all the time from last year going into this year, and that was before Tyjae Spears was in the mix. And to be honest, as a complete Pollard conversation, I wouldn't be surprised if Spears starts pushing for a 50-50, and then we're talking about Spears in the way we used to talk about Jalen Warren alongside Najee Harris, is that we'd rather have the better looking, more explosive option. So I'm with him. I'm with Meyers on this one as long as he's playing and healthy. Just there's very little upside for Pollard, let alone the matchup that Fitz brought up with the Patriots.
Let's go to Zach Charbonnet versus Jerry Jeudy, who also is obviously has that weather consideration now, and I'm wondering if that will impact
Dylan Gabriel in that win. I mean, he might get knocked over, so I think
Tua and Dylan Gabriel being the 2 quarterbacks in that game with that win is kind of hilarious. Jake, who do you like better here, Charbonnet or Jeudy?
So jokes aside, I will even say, even without let's just say the weather breaks and it's clear and 10 mile an hour winds, I'm still going Charbonnet, just because if you're going to tell me who has the better chance for probably similar touches potentially, but even if they do have similar touches, who's more likely to score, I would just go lean with Charbonnet on this one.
Fitz.
The weather, I got to take Charbonnet is 2.6 yards per carry, apparently. So,
but like, they keep using him at the goal line.
I know,
insistent,
and that is his only value, Jake. The fall into the end zone. But the weird thing about Jeudy, like, he is currently wide receiver 57 in half-point PPR fantasy scoring. But get this, he leads all NFL wide receivers in number of routes run. He ranks 4th among receivers in air yards. He's tied for 10th among receivers in targets. But obviously, like, the quality of targets, not great. Only 60% of his targets this season have been deemed catchable. He's playing with a 3rd-round rookie quarterback, Dylan Gabriel, and Jeudy himself bears some of the blame. Let's face it, he's been kind of a career underachiever. So with the usage, I would have been really tempted to take Jeudy here, but with the wind, there's no way. I'm just going with Charbonnet.
One more flex here. Woody Marks or Kayshon Boutte. We talked a little bit about Boutte when we were talking about Diggs. Marks, of course, coming off of his bye week. So, Fitz, I'll start with you on this one. Marks or Boutte, who do you like better?
Oh, I know which way Jake is going with this, but I got to be the Lex Luthor to Jake's Superman here. I'm going with Kayshon Boutte. He has not been heavily targeted this season, but he has been wildly efficient. Boutte is averaging 13.1 yards per target and 1.86 yards per route run. Just excellent numbers. Has 3 touchdowns. Marks is in a split backfield with Nick Chubb. Tough matchup against the Seahawks, who rank 2nd in DVOA versus the run, and Houston's offensive line is not so good.
Yeah,
Jake?
Yeah, that's the one area where the Seahawks still are strong, even with those injuries, as you brought up earlier. So I will say, you do know where I'm going, because I'm going to go with Marks, but I will say the definitive higher ceiling, I would go with Boutte if you need that play. And this is why I bring this up a lot of times, not to like put the onus on the people watching, but we're talking about flex plays. So we're talking about positions where you are going to have to make that decision and look at your team and say, you know what, do I have a really strong team and I'm fine, and I just want to bet the better, the better consistent play out there. The thing is with Marks, is the touches were almost equal. The opportunities were actually more for Marks in that last game. Is that Chubb just had the bigger game. It's still a split backfield. And there's always the potential, as you guys both, everybody knows this, coming out of buys, and it usually skews more towards wide receivers than running backs, but it does happen, is that rookies, young players coming out of buys sometimes see an uptick. Again, usually that's more true for wide receivers, but it happens with running backs too. If Marks was all of a sudden the 60-40 side of the split, I wouldn't be shocked. But again, we're talking safe play. I will agree with Fitz 100% though. If you're looking for the ceiling, Boutte has the higher ceiling.
Yeah, but Jake made this point on his podcast, and it's spot on, that Drake May is basically like Josh Allen. He just throws to the open guy. So it's going to be real hard to like peg the right guy in that group of pass catchers.
I know we're not talking about it, but a lot of people are like, should I drop Hunter Henry for Mason Taylor? And I'm like, this is what happens at tight end and with Drake May. He'll go back to Hunter Henry, and then everybody like, oh my God, I can't believe I missed the Hunter Henry game. Like, it's going to come back around.
Let's go to quarterback here. Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence? Jake, who do you like better?
This is now the inverse. I have Fields just in front of him, and this is the lowest I've ranked Justin Fields all year. Because it's the rushing, but I brought up before, Carolina's run defense has been playing better over the last 2 weeks. It's not a huge sample, so I'm not all of a sudden like, Carolina defense, watch out for it. But it's number one in rush EPA, as in the toughest, as in the worst matchup possibly for rush EPA over the past 2 weeks. And it's not like they're facing slouches over the past 2 weeks. So again, I'm not saying Panthers, oh my God, run for the hills with the run game, but Justin Fields did just get Garrett Wilson killed. So he's going to be throwing to Josh Reynolds, Mason Taylor, and a bunch of people who will be like, who? So that's part of the issue. But Fields is there as in he can run for 100 yards and has the ceiling. If you do not want to risk, I say this all the time, if you don't want to risk what we just saw with Justin Fields last week, as in 3 points, Trevor Lawrence is your play. Like, let me make that 100% clear.
Fitz.
I don't even know if he's going to have Josh Reynolds, Jake. I thought I saw that Josh Reynolds was maybe questionable for this game. Yeah, sidelined at practice Wednesday with a hip injury. So
is Josh Reynolds, who gets more hurt, Josh Reynolds or Juwan Jennings? At least Juwan Jennings plays through injuries.
No kidding. Yeah, so I do not want to play Justin Fields this week. And if you do play him, you better hope he gives you 10 rushing points, because I don't think you're getting 10 passing points out of him. Last I checked, the prop...
Well, rushing touchdown, too.
You need a touchdown rushing out of him, no question. I think his odds of giving you a rushing touchdown are probably better than a passing touchdown. And last I checked, the prop for Fields passing yardage on Hard Rock Bets was 173.5 passing yards. I'm smashing the under on that bet. No Garrett Wilson, maybe no Josh Reynolds. Top 2 receivers could be Arian Smith, who is really fast but had a 12% drop rate in his final college season, and Tyler Johnson, who has 80 career catches in 54 career games. And if he is going to get 200 passing yards, you would need to see some keystone cops tackling by the Panthers where they just fall down and let guys run for 60 yards after the catch. And that really hasn't been the case. The Panthers, not an easy matchup. Their defense has not been bad this year. Middle of the pack in terms of fantasy points allowed to quarterbacks. Give me Lawrence, and I'm never excited about using Trevor Lawrence, but I've got him ranked QB 15. I've got Fields QB 19. I'm like 7 spots below consensus.
Okay. Well, speaking of Fields, the tight end I have here, Mason Taylor, who else is going to catch passes? Or Harold Fannin Jr., who... Again, I did put this together before I saw the wind thing. I didn't mean to keep using players in that game. But Mason Taylor or Harold Fannin, Fitz, who do you like better?
Man, I so want to say Fannin here. I'll have to check day of game weather. And even if there is some wind, I might still go Fannin. Broncos tight ends have had 29 targets and 20 catches in Dylan Gabriel's first 2 starts. And I know if David Njoku is out, and it looks like he will be, that all the target spillover is not just going to Harold Fannin. Matchup against the Dolphins defense that's allowed the 5th most receiving yards to tight ends. We'll have to see on the weather, because Taylor is a decent play too. I know he flopped last week, 1 catch, 2 yards against the Broncos, but the Panthers have not been able to cover tight ends. That is their Achilles heel on defense. They have given up the most fantasy point, second most this year, most I believe last year to tight ends. And, like you said, Worm, Fields has to throw to someone.
Jake, what do you think? I mean, Fannin, to the point about the wind, you would think his usage might be such that the wind wouldn't be as much of a detriment to him as it would be to other players. But again, the opportunity for Taylor just to get every target he can handle. So who do you like better?
So as of today and before this weather situation, by the way, all that typing I was doing, I was looking everywhere. There's no Justin Fields rushing touchdown prop yet on any. I found the passing is minus 275 for over a half of a touchdown, which is, by the way, insane to think about. It's not 1.5, it's a half, and it's still minus 275. And even I'm like, I don't think I'd even bet that for a passing one. I just want to throw out how insane that is. So by looking through all this, but I'm with Fitz now with the weather. Initially, I had Fannin at 10 and Mason Taylor at 13. And that's with no David Njoku in my ranks, assuming that stays the course. With that weather, though, like, I just don't know how we can ignore it. And I would knock Fannin down. I'm going to do my projections later today, as I do on Thursdays. I can see this being super close. And I feel like, honestly, I know he's one of the last men standing, but this would be in one where I would actually go Mason Taylor a non-PPR. If I was going full PPR, I would probably still lean Fannin barely.
Say goodbye to start-sit dilemmas with Fantasy Pros Start-Sit Assistant. Within seconds, you'll know exactly who to play for optimal results each week. Leveraging insights from numerous experts, the Start-Sit Assistant aligns your lineup decisions with the top minds in fantasy football, giving you a competitive edge. Maximize your lineup's potential with just a few clicks. Head to fantasypros.com/myplaybook or download the Fantasy Pros app and make winning decisions in no time. We are about to get to our touchdown calls for the week, but first, join our free touchdown calls contest in the Fantasy Pros Discord. Each week, pick 4 players you think will score with a bonus flex worth double. Weekly winners get a $25 Fantasy Pros gift card, and the season champ takes home a signed Bijan Robinson jersey. Play now by going to fantasypros.com/chat and heading to the touchdown calls channel. How did you guys do with this last week? I didn't get to that part of the
I hit the tight
show.
end. We're on a tight end roll. Fitz hit it first, and we're 2 for 2.
That's too much pressure on me now. That's my turn on the tight end. Jake, you're on running back this week. Fitz, you're on receiver, and I will be trying to continue our good luck charm on the tight end side of things. Start us off with running back, Jake.
Yeah, so I already jinxed myself on the Athletic Discord because somebody asked this question, and I was like, you know what, by the way, I'm 5 for 6, and the only one I've missed, I've actually hit the running backs and the wide receivers. The only one I missed was the first tight end touchdown call of the year. And so now I've completely jinxed myself. So I might as well say it again. I've jinxed myself. And I'm not going for the easy. I feel like Jonathan Taylor and Josh Jacobs are the super easy ones. I wanted to go a little bit more interesting, and I'm going with Bill. Krosky Merritt against the Cowboys, and I think the uses that we're seeing from him, I would be concerned in fantasy and full point PPR, or if this was a receiving thing because they just don't want to use him in that fashion, very similar to Brian Robinson and the like. But that matchup and that opportunity for him, I think that we just saw what we wanted to finally, is he got the start before Chris Rodriguez got hurt, and he got basically the vast majority of the touches. So going against the Cowboys, I think that Krosky Merritt gets the touchdown. So now be ready for that to ruin my streak, and everybody's being mad about Bill Krosky Merritt having a terrible week.
Fitz? Let's stick with the Washington Commanders theme. I'll go with Terry McLaurin, a.k.a. Terry McLovin. It seems like he's going to return from his quad injury. He got in a limited practice on Wednesday. McLaurin gets into the end zone against the Cowboys defense that's given up a league-high 12 touchdown catches to wide receivers. And McLaurin had a touchdown in both of his games against Dallas last year.
I am tempted to pick Zach Ertz to just continue the Commanders.
Just all Washington.
Make it a sweep. When I put it in the sheet, who I picked initially was Mason Taylor. Doesn't have a touchdown yet this season. The Panthers, while they are good against the run, have not been good against tight ends for a couple of years now. I am kind of scared off just by the fact that when you listed that over a half a passing touchdown prop, Jake, I was like, I don't want to take the over. So now I'm like, why am I picking Mason Taylor?
You are. You might as well double down with it if you're going to do that.
Yeah, probably I should. I'll stick with Taylor. I mean, kind of like you were talking about, Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs. You don't want to just pick the easy, most obvious names every week. So I'll stick with Taylor and hope to.
Sure? We're giving you the opportunity. You can change.
Yes, he will have the chance. You could dominate your fantasy football league with Fantasy Pros Premium, now available free for 6 months when you deposit and place your first wager on one of our partner sports books. This is the easiest way to get full access to our top fantasy tools all season long. Go to fantasypros.com/premium to get started. Hopefully we hit this. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, Terry McLaurin, and I'm sticking with it, Mason Taylor. For Jake and Fitz, I'm Ryan Wormeli. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Good luck here in week 7. We'll see you next time.